Hi! I'm Barb.
And I'm Alex.
And we're Enchanterium. In today's video, we'll be making Avea, the astronaut. She's a doll based on an idea from one of our followers on Instagram.
Some time ago, before we even started this channel, we wanted to try shrinking the doll's head, just as an experiment. We went with Cerise Hood from Ever After High as our victim. The experiment was successful, but we didn't have any plans for her until the idea of an astronaut girl came to us in the giveaway. I'm starting the face up with blushing using chalk pastels. Then, with a brown watercolor pencil, I'm defining the face features. I didn't like the first try, so I started again with more Caucasian look of the eyes. Cerise doll has unique face mold and I really like the shape of her nose and lips, but after shrinking, the fact that she's smaller than her usual head makes things a little more difficult to draw. I'm using a lot of white pencil to highlight the irises, eyebrows, freckles and nose. Some artists do face up mostly with watercolor pencils, but I prefer to add paints early to the process because I like the vibrant effect that paints can give. I like to draw white lashes next to the black lashes. It makes them more visible and cute. The same applies to the eyebrows, just drawing some individual hairs with white acrylic. I thought the eyes may look more interesting with another color in the center, so I'm adding a hint of purple. The last step is always Pearlix micro glitter.
Her outfit is pretty simple. I'm making a gray undersuit that will be the base for the space equipment. I'm making a simple shirt, first attaching the sleeves to the bodice. I often do this slowly on my machine, only using the hand wheel. After the sleeves are both in place, I can close the shirt's side seams and underarm seams in one go. As usual, I'm fitting the doll frequently to see if everything lays the way I want to. The second part of the costume is trousers, which are really easy to make. All you need to do is sew the front and back seams, and then the legs in one go, optionally hemming the waist. I attached all of the clothes directly on the doll, since she won't have removable clothes this time. The head was shrunk, so I'm shortening the neck back and enlarging the hole in her head, hoping that I can make it work.
The editing of this video might be a little chaotic and not chronological, and later we will show you how this piece was created, but all that matters now is that I painted it and placed on the doll before putting the head back on the body. Now let's make the space costume more interesting with some armor-like pieces. They are all made from thin craft foam and I'm gluing them with hot glue directly to the outfit. I'm gently removing the rest with X-Acto knife. The pieces are mostly stripes in two colors, grey and black, and the most complex part is the chest plate that I prepared off camera. The design is not based on real astronaut suits, but it's more like an outfit from a science fiction game. Nothing too fancy or mechanical, but I wanted to include a hint of retro spacesuits. I'm also not an expert on this kind of outfit, so it's rather nice looking than functional. I prepared these little accessories from craft foam and I'm adding them to the armbands. These shoes come from Dracu doll and they're not really space-like looking, but after cutting them here and there, especially those heels, they're going to look much better. I accidentally cut a little too much on the toes part, so there is a hole in each shoe, but I was going to make new soles anyway. I should predict that when I put the leg inside, the new sole can break, but it's easy to fix with hot glue and more epoxy sculpt. I added more crafting foam to decorate the shoes and I'm painting all the parts to look even more space-like. Don't forget to paint the hot glue leftovers. The bodysuit also needs a lot of painting and I'm adding some details to the chest plate, belts, cuffs, and actually everywhere. It's mostly painted with dark grey, white and silver, but I made a few color touches like little buttons or control lights and the blue crystal under the chest plate.
I really wanted to give this doll a proper astronaut helmet, and from this short animation of how I made this version, you can't really see how much work I put into this. I was going back and forth on concepts and shapes and methods of modeling it so it would work in real life, and finally we landed on this. I tried to make it look somewhat proportional to the doll. To make the visor stand out, I used some gel base coat, and by some, I mean a lot, and followed that with black gel polish, but I realized that wasn't a smart move pretty quick. I switched to just using a black acrylic paint as a base, and then after it dried, I used a gel top coat followed by a layer of chrome powder. You can kind of see me in the reflection. I added another top coat layer to seal everything.
So, you have seen this before and it's a linking piece for two bigger elements of the helmet, which I'm going to paint now. And yes, it's me in a distorted reflection. For some reason the parts are not next to each other as we planned, and there's a huge gap between them. The best solution for this is epoxy sculpt. First I'm sanding the edge, so epoxy can stick better to the surface. Then I'm roughly adding some blobs of clay. With the help of sculpting tools I'm trying to make a transition between clay and the resin. After it dries a little and becomes harder but not cured, I'm cutting the excess from the inside of the helmet. I could use sandpaper for smoothing the edges, but it would take a long time to finish, so I did the main sanding with a Dremel tool. The transition looks pretty good, but I thought the helmet looked a little bit boring, so I glued craft foam shapes and painted sides with acrylics. With some additional details, the helmet looks like this. I had some leftover clay and made this thing without a specific intent. Then we came up with an idea to make her a space backpack, and I started making it with a piece of aluminum foil as a base. I'm wrapping it with epoxy sculpt and making a few details like water tank, some pipes and this funky thing I made before. Painting took me quite a while and I chose grey mixed with silver and a little bit of blue for details. After a few days, I realized that the clay didn't cure well and it was still soft in some places. I think it's because of poorly mixed clay. The proportions of part A and B had to be uneven. Maybe I would ignore it if the doll would be for our collection, but she's going to have a new home and a new owner, so I couldn't leave it like this. I scraped all of the uncured clay with my nails and a knife.
No!
Luckily, the base is hard and stiff. I mixed a new batch of clay and sculpted new stuff on the backpack. To be honest, I like this version even better than the previous one, so maybe the situation wasn't that bad. I'm painting the backpack again with the same color palette. As a last step, I'm covering it with 2 coats of matte varnish to protect the paint from scratching. Okay, so I made some mistakes with the accessories, but even more mistakes were made during the hair application. I have this leftover hair from making Mini Alex and Mini Barb. They were stored in an envelope and are still in good condition, but we want them to be straight. Quick treatment with a hair straightener will do the job. I'm painting the scalp with brown paint to minimize the bald spots. I'm gluing the hair wefts directly to the head, starting from the back and the sides. And when I had something like this, a really bad thing happened. The neck probably cracked while putting the head back on the body, but we didn't realize it sooner, and one unfortunate move was enough to destroy it. To remove the broken parts of the neck that are trapped inside the head, I'm opening the head with an X-Acto knife. Then I'm gluing the pieces back to cover the hole with a super glue, but to secure it even better, I'm using hot glue on top. Unfortunately, my regular glue doesn't stick to the hot glue, so to add the hair wefts, I'm using super glue again, and my extraordinary gluing skills cause me to glue my fingers together. I made the rest of the hair off camera to avoid frustration. Now it's time to work on attaching the head back onto the body. You may remember this doll. Her head is now Stormy's head, but the body was unused and I think she's going to be an excellent neck donor. Let's prepare our Dremel tool for the surgery. The reason I decided not to take a new body is pretty simple. The costume was glued directly on the doll. Barb was abroad when I was finishing this project and I don't have enough sewing skills to transfer this suit onto another doll, and the boots were glued with hot glue and epoxy. To attach the new neck, I glued a wire into the hole in the body as an armature. I took a 2-part glue that is strong enough to glue neck back where it should be. Then I'm filling the crevice with epoxy sculpt. It wasn't bad, but to stiffen the neck even more, I made her a turtleneck-like color. This is the second try, because the first thinner one didn't survive putting the head back on, which I remind you is super hard after shrinking. As a last step, I'm attaching the backpack and covering all the visible glue with acrylic paint.
This is how she turned out. It was a complicated project filled with more downs than usual, but we managed to somehow pull through and finish this doll. It was a long process from the idea, through the concept making, figuring out each part, and fixing the fails. But what can you do? We're only human.
Our question this time is, how are you? How are you dealing with the current situation? We're okay and hope you're healthy and well.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram for some sneak peeks and subscribe for future videos. Have an enchanted day, and we'll see you next time. Bye!
After it dries a little,
you can kind of see me in the friction.
I'm painting the backpack again with na. Bo jakbym tak dostawała hajs za każde złe zdanie, to była super bogata.